Hey, Grandma. How you doing? Yeah. Just getting up, moving around, drinking coffee. A little cold this morning. Well, thank you for showing up, commenting, and liking. Yeah, it's been foggy for about a week. Messed up my fireworks show. Yeah, the San Francisco fireworks show. Yeah, we got some little boats out here. San Francisco over there. Sausalito over here. Put y'all back on the bridge. Are we on the boat? Yes, we live on the boat. We are nomadic pirates. We got the Starlink. I got about 600 amp hours of lithium solar. As long as I keep the wife and kid internet and power, they're happy. It's pretty chilly today. About need a jacket. Figured I'd poke my head out, go live. Looking forward to visiting my brother in Vallejo for Thanksgiving. Tidelands. Awesome. That's where we started at, was Vallejo. Did about 6 months there, getting the boat ready. Now we live at Anchor most of the time, there at Berkeley. We just make our rounds. We'll do Treasure Island, Sausalito, China Camp, and then go to Berkeley for a couple of weeks. y'all for being here. Thanks for the likes. Not much today, just doing a live of this chilly morning. All my best to you from Michigan. Well, never made it up that far.
Well, we made it up.
We've made it up to Canada, but
We didn't go up that far in that side of the country.
I think I got a brother in Wisconsin. That's still not even close. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Trudge on. That's right, like the name. Coffee. Not really. By that time, the wind will be blowing. Trying to keep you on the bridge. I would hold it, but my hands are real shaky. Yeah, I think it's good. It ain't going nowhere. If it did fall, that would be a cool video, though. Seeing how long it would stay on and going in the water. What we got going on over here? Will you set that down for me? Just put it right there. It's okay. lot of noise coming from here. There's Treasure Island, Alcatraz, San Francisco, Golden Gate, and Sausalito. I jumped up to 20. Guess I gotta keep moving and talking then. I'm still live, my sweetie, but I'm checking you out, okay? Thank you, Grandma. You rock. You awesome. I'll try to do the same. I notice you're real active. Oh, oh. Thank you for being here. Huh? Oh, you did? Go ahead, say hey to her. She gonna go check you out now. I feel very welcome in your. Well, thank you. That's awesome. You're so nice. I'm glad you're here. We need people like you. Mm-hmm.
Process. Since the year 2000, state and federal law enforcement agencies
Should I subscribe to her
seized more
channel?
than $68 billion from people who were never convicted of a crime. That sounds impossible. But it's called civil asset forfeiture. The Fifth Amendment says the government cannot take your life, liberty,
My wife just subscribed to you, Grandma, from her channel.
or innocent until proven guilty. The government carries the burden. The state has to prove its case before it can take what belongs to you. Civil asset forfeiture flips that idea upside down. Under civil forfeiture, law enforcement can seize cash, cars, homes, and other property without convicting the owner of a crime. In many cases, without even charging the owner with a crime. The legal trick is that the case is technically filed against the property, not the person. So instead of the government versus you, it becomes something like the government versus your cash. Because the property is treated as a defendant, the normal protections of criminal law do not apply in the same way. That means the owner often has to fight to prove the property is returned. And a lawyer may cost more than the money they took. Imagine getting pulled over with cash in a vehicle. Police decide the cash looks suspicious. They take it. You're not convicted. You may not even be charged. Now, if you want your money back, you may need a lawyer. The lawyer costs more than the money you took. One of the clearest examples of this is the case of Ua. In 2016, he was stopped in Oklahoma for a minor traffic violation. He was a naturalized American citizen, a refugee from Burma, working as a tour manager for a Christian music group. Police seized $53,000 in cash. That money was concert proceeds, charitable donations, intended for an orphanage in Thailand and a college in Burma. He had documentation for every dollar. No drugs were found. No criminal activity was proven. They charged him with a felony anyway. Eventually, the charges and forfeiture were both dropped. He got his money back, but only because a public interest law firm took his case and the story went public. Most people in that situation get neither. And here's the part that does not get said enough. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. Fighting a forfeiture in courts costs money. Money most people do not have. Money that in most cases is more than what was taken. So most people walk away. And the government keeps the property. Not because they proved the crime, because they made it too expensive to disagree. Approximately 85% of civil asset forfeiture cases are resolved by administrative default. That means the government keeps the property without any real judicial review. In some places, only a tiny percentage of forfeiture cases ever make it before a judge. The founders built due process into the system because they understood what happens when government can take property first and justify it later. Today, that is exactly what happens. Verdicts? Fail. Category 5. The structural check on government power. Most people talk about the Second Amendment as a gun debate. Defense, crime, hunting, gun policy. But that is not the full original argument. The founders talked about it as a structural check on power. James Madison wrote that Americans had an advantage over people in almost every other nation because they were armed. He was not talking about deer hunting. He was talking about the relationship between people and the government.
Learn something useful and apply it immediately.
Webster argued that before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed. Elbridge Gerry said the militia existed to prevent the establishment of a standing army. That was the concern, a government with armed force on one side, a disarmed population on the other. The Second Amendment was meant to prevent that imbalance from becoming absolute. Now look at the situation today. The amendment still exists, the individual right still exists, but the question is whether it still functions the way it was originally designed to function. When the amendment was ratified, a citizen could legally own weapons of the time. Over the next 250 years, the the government placed layer after layer of restrictions on civilian arms. The National Firearms Act, the Gun Control Act, the Hughes Amendment, federal laws, state laws, local laws. At the same time, the government developed the most powerful military and surveillance apparatus in human history. $1 trillion military budget, drones, satellites, facial recognition, mass surveillance capability, federal tactical units, precision weapons. The founders were worried about muskets and standing armies. Today, the government has drones and data centers, so the right still exists. But whether it still works as a meaningful structural check on the government's power, the real question. Verdicts. Open question. Category 6, consent of the governed. The Declaration says government gets its authority from the consent of the governed. That sounds simple, but here's the question. Do ordinary Americans actually influence policy? Or do they mostly just live under decisions made by people with more money, more access, more power? In 2014, political scientists Martin Guyland and Benjamin Page studied this question. They looked at nearly 2,000 policy issues over multiple decades. They compared the preferences of average citizens, economic elites, and organized interest groups. Their finding was uncomfortable. Economic elites and business interest groups had substantial influence on policy outcomes. Average citizens have little or no independent influence. That does not mean voters never get what they want. The issue is deeper than that. Later analysis added more nuance. In cases where average citizens and elites directly disagreed, average citizens sometimes won. And on many issues, the preferences of average citizens and wealthy Americans overlapped. But that raises another question. Why do those preferences overlap so often? Are ordinary Americans forming their views independently? Or are those views shaped by media, institutions, algorithms, culture, and information systems that are already influenced by concentrated power? That is not an easy question, but it matters because consent only means something if it is informed, independent, and real. If people are choosing from options created by the same system that benefits from their choices, then the consent of the governed becomes harder to measure. The founders promised a government based on consent. The modern evidence suggests that consent is complicated at best. Verdicts? Contested. Category 7, the pursuit of happiness. In 2025, the median age for the first-time home buyer reached a record high, 40 years old. In the 1980s, it was in the late 20s. That is not just a housing statistic, that is a civilization warning light. When the founders talked about the pursuit of happiness, they did not mean chasing pleasure. They meant the ability to live as a free and independent person, to own property, to build a life, to not be permanently dependent on someone else's provision. In the founding era, land ownership was tied directly to independence. A person with land had a degree of freedom. A person without property was more dependent on landlords, employers, institutions. That's why housing matters. Not because everyone needs a white picket fence, but because ownership gives people stability. It gives them roots, it gives them leverage. It gives them the ability to say no. In 1960, the median home price was about 2 times the median household income. Today, in many places, it is 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times more the income. In some cities, even more. Wages did not keep up. Housing costs exploded, interest rates jumped, zoning restricted supply. Existing homeowners got locked into low mortgage rates, and institutional investors moved into the single-family housing market. At one point, institutional buyers were purchasing more than a quarter of single-family homes. Homes that might have gone to first-time buyers were being turned into permanent rental inventory. That is the new model. You do not own, you do not rent, you subscribe, you pay forever. We call it normal. In 1960, about half of Americans at age 30 were both married. By 2026, that combined number had fallen to around 15%. The milestone of independent property ownership has moved further and further out of reach. The founders acquired land for almost nothing by today's standards. Their descendants are building their first homes at 40, if they buy it all. Verdicts? Category 8, freedom of the press. The United States wrote freedom of the press into its Constitution. The world press freedom. That should bother you. The First Amendment was not there for show. It was supposed to protect the mechanism that exposes corruption. The free press is how the public finds out what the government is doing. It is how a Reporters ranked the United States 64th in the world in its 2026 World Press Freedom Index, the lowest ranking in the United States has ever received in that index. The report pointed to hostile rhetoric towards journalists, government censorship concerns, federal actions against reporters, and national security law being used in ways that restrict investigative reporting. 64th, on the 250th anniversary of the document that eventually led to constitutional press freedom. The country that helped write the modern language of liberty now ranks between countries most Americans could not even find on a map. Verdicts? Failed. So, here are the findings. No taxation without representation, $115,000 in debt per person, $5 trillion more added to the debt ceiling on Independence Day 2025. Failed. Fiscal stability. 8 failed Pentagon audits. $1 trillion budget in response. Failed. Freedom from unreasonable searches. 0 warrants obtained during years of legal warrant requirements. Warrantless searches are up. Failed. Due process. More than $68 billion seized from people convicted of crime. Most cases never reviewed by a judge. Failed. The right to bear arms to the check on government power. The right still exists. Whether it still functions as designed is unclear. Open question. Consent of the governed. Research suggests ordinary citizens have limited independent influence over policy. Tested. The pursuit of happiness. The first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. Ownership is moving out of reach. Failed. Freedom of the press. 64th in the world. All-time low. Failed. That is the 250-year audit. The founders did not respond to a broken system by begging it to fix itself forever. They built outside of it. They created parallel committees, parallel assemblies, parallel communication networks, parallel systems for trade, parallel structures of trust. They did not just complain about the machine, they started building something the machine did not control. That is the part people forget. The Declaration of Independence does not say that when a system becomes destructive, the people should keep waiting. It says the people have the right to alter it, to abolish it, and to institute something new. That is not radical. That is America's founding document. And its 250th birthday. Woo! Now to end this video, I want to take a minute to talk about nomad syndicates. Nomad syndicate is a network of people who are already living differently. People living in vans, buses, RVs, campers, cars, cabins, homesteads, and off-grid land. It starts with a simple idea. What if we could find each other?
Drop boat.
What if we could map safe places to park, private land to gather, events to attend, people to meet, and communities to build? The goal is not just another social app. The goal is a private land network. Community-owned nodes, sanctuary spaces, safe parking, mobile meetups, and eventually real places across the myself to regroup, contribute, and build something outside the system. The mission is to build the network one piece of ground at a time. The community links are in the description. Remember, the system was not built for you, so I say, build your own.
I studied the 10.
Every American alive today is carrying roughly $115,000 in federal debt.
I am Ray, the reason why never stops is because you try too hard to be somebody. Then you become nobody.
facing outward. I'm not going out there. It's too cold. Yeah, if you go, you're gonna have to sail by yourself.
That's awesome. Now you're probably going to become enlightened by the end of this video. So enlightened and scroll way down. Hold on your chest. See, here's how enlightened works.
It sounds like you're in a tunnel. It's in his ear. Ear infection. E-A.
Protect your neck from injury.
Ear infection.
Ear infection.
There you go. Nah. Na, 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 na. Okay, give everybody more view around. Okay.